Have you ever noticed how the most powerful moments in life often happen in the spaces between breaths, between thoughts, between chapters of your journey? On December 15th, 2024, as the final full moon of the year rises in the night sky, we're being offered a rare gift, what ancient wisdom traditions call the profound pause. In a world that never stops moving, where productivity is praised above presence, this cold moon arrives like a cosmic permission slip. It's nature's reminder that the most profound transformations happen not in the doing, but in the sacred space between actions. Just as winter trees know to rest before spring's renewal, you too are being called into a space of profound potential. In this special teaching, we'll journey through the 3 sacred chambers of transformation that open during this cold moon. Ancient wisdom from traditions that knew the power of sacred stillness. Scientific discoveries that reveal why pausing might be the most powerful thing you can do. Practical rituals to help you harness this rare cosmic alignment. The exact practices that can turn this lunar moment into lasting transformation. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why the most successful people throughout history honored the power of pause. You'll discover how stepping into stillness might be the most revolutionary act you can take. And most importantly, you'll learn how to use this cold moon's energy to transform the very way you move through life. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed by life's pace, seeking deeper meaning, or simply ready for profound transformation, this teaching holds a sacred key. Let's step together into the mystery of the profound pause, where all possibilities await. Ready to discover what happens when you finally give yourself permission to pause. Let's begin this sacred journey together. The wisdom of winter's void explained. Nature understands the necessity of pause. Look at the trees, their branches bare against the winter sky. They've let go of all that's unnecessary. They don't rush to produce new leaves or fruits. Instead, they enter a state of profound rest, gathering strength in stillness. This is not emptiness, it's fullness waiting to be born. Think of a master musician who knows that music isn't just about the notes, it's about the spaces between them. Similarly, the cold moon teaches us that life isn't just about action and achievement. It's about the sacred pauses where transformation happens in silence, the 3 chambers of pause. During this cold moon, you're invited to move through these chambers consciously. Each chamber requires its own kind of presence. In the chamber of release, practice conscious surrender. In the void chamber, cultivate comfortable presence with mystery. In the chamber of crystallization, develop patient attention to emerging patterns. Imagine entering an ancient temple carved from moonlight itself. The first chamber you encounter is the chamber of release. Here, the walls seem to breathe with compassion, creating a sacred container for all that you've been carrying. This is where the cold moon's grace first touches you, inviting a deep and systematic surrender. In this chamber, time behaves differently, like watching the last autumn leaves finally release their hold on winter-bound branches. You begin to feel the weight of the year's momentum gradually dissolving. The constant doing, striving, and becoming that has defined your journey starts to settle, like sediment in still water. This release isn't just about letting go of what no longer serves. It's about releasing your grip on who you think you should be. Here, underneath the cold moon's crystalline light, you're invited to release the rhythm of constant motion, the addiction to productivity, the need to know what comes next, the illusion of control, the weight of others' expectations, the momentum of old patterns. This chamber teaches us that true release isn't forced, it's allowed. Like ice naturally melting when brought into warmth, our tight hold on life begins to soften in this sacred space. The chamber of release is lined with celestial mirrors, showing us exactly what we're still clutching, still carrying, still trying to control. The beauty of this first chamber is that it works in layers. Each breath here brings a deeper level of surrender. What begins as releasing physical tension moves into emotional release, then mental release, and finally, spiritual release. The cold moon's light acts as a gentle solvent, dissolving the glue that holds our constructs together. Passing through the chamber of release, you enter a space that defies description, the void chamber. If the first chamber was about letting go, this chamber is about being in the perfect emptiness that follows. Here, the cold moon reveals one of its deepest mysteries. Emptiness is not empty at all. This is the space where quantum possibilities dance. Before manifestation, before form, before even the thought of form, there is this sacred void. It's like the dark space between stars that holds the universe together, or the silence between musical notes that gives them meaning. In this chamber, you learn the art of being comfortable with uncertainty. This isn't the uncomfortable uncertainty of daily life. This is the exquisite uncertainty of pure potential, like a blank canvas before the first brushstroke, or the moment before dawn when anything seems possible. This void space holds every possibility in perfect suspension. The void chamber teaches us to rest in the unknown, trust in the mystery, float in uncertainty, breathe with infinity, dance with possibility, commune with potential. This is where the magic of the cold moon becomes most apparent. In this space, we're not rushing to fill the silence or jumpstart the next phase. Instead, we're learning to be comfortable in the great mystery, the cosmic womb where all things are possible. This chamber has no walls, no ceiling, no floor. It's infinite in all directions, yet somehow holds you in perfect safety. The final chamber emerges not because you leave the void, but because the void begins to take shape around you. This is the chamber of crystallization, where the infinite possibilities of the void begin to crystallize into new patterns. Like watching frost patterns form on a winter window, you witness the emergence of new forms from seeming nothingness. In this chamber, the cold moon teaches us about divine timing. Just as a snowflake needs precise conditions to form its unique pattern, our deeper truths need the perfect conditions to crystallize into reality. This isn't about forcing or making things happen. It's about allowing natural patterns to emerge from the void. The crystallization process happens in sacred geometry. First, a single point of clarity emerges. Then, lines of intention form. Next, patterns of possibility take shape. Finally, complete forms crystallize into being. This chamber holds the delicate balance between formation and force. Like watching a crystal grow, we learn that some things can't be rushed. The cold moon's light becomes like a laser here, precise and clear, helping us see the sacred patterns emerging from our time in the void. Let's discuss how to work with the 3 chambers of pause. During this cold moon, you're invited to move through these chambers consciously. Each chamber requires its own kind of presence. In the chamber of release, practice conscious surrender. In the void chamber, cultivate comfortable presence with mystery. In the chamber of crystallization, develop patient attention to emerging patterns. Remember that these chambers aren't just metaphorical spaces. They're states of consciousness available to you during this powerful lunar period. The cold moon acts as a master key, unlocking each chamber in perfect sequence. Let the moonlight guide you through these sacred spaces. Trust that each chamber has its own wisdom, its own timing, its own gifts. This is the deeper teaching of the profound pause. Not just stopping, but entering these. Like an ancient temple, the profound pause has 3 sacred chambers. The first is the chamber of release, where we let go of the year's momentum. Here, underneath the cold moon's crystalline light, we allow ourselves to stop doing and simply be. The constant motion of our lives, like a wheel that's been spinning all year, gradually comes to rest. The second chamber is the void itself, the space of pure potential. This is where the magic of the cold moon becomes most apparent. In this space, we're not rushing to fill the silence or jumpstart the next phase. Instead, we're learning to be comfortable in the great mystery, the cosmic womb where all things are possible. The third chamber is the space of crystallization, where new patterns form in stillness. Just as snowflakes need that moment of perfect stillness to form their intricate patterns, our deeper truths need the profound pause to take shape. Finding stillness under this cold moon isn't about forcing quiet. It's about allowing ourselves to sink into the natural pause that December offers. Each evening, as darkness falls earlier and earlier, light a single white candle, watch its flame, and allow yourself to synchronize with winter's rhythm of rest. Create a daily practice of what we call the sacred stop. 3 times each day, pause completely, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. Let everything settle, like snow falling silently on already frozen ground. These moments of complete stillness become portals to deeper wisdom. In our world of constant motion and endless productivity, choosing to pause is a revolutionary act. The cold moon reminds us that pause isn't passive, it's deeply active in its stillness. Like a frozen lake that appears motionless but is very much alive beneath its surface, our conscious pause is teeming with potential. When we enter this sacred still point, we align with the deeper rhythms of the cosmos. We remember that every out-breath is followed by a moment of perfect stillness before the next in-breath begins. Every heartbeat has its pause. Every wave has its moment of perfect balance before it turns. Within the profound pause lies one of spirituality's greatest mysteries. The void is not empty. Just as the darkness between stars holds the universe together, the pause between activities holds the key to our deepest transformation. This cold moon illuminates this truth with crystal clarity. In quantum physics, they speak of the zero-point field, the state of pure potential from which all matter emerges. The profound pause is our conscious connection to this field. When we truly stop, we touch this space of infinite possibility. As the cold moon reaches its peak, allow yourself to fully enter this cosmic pause. Release the need to plan the next moment. Let go of the urge to fill the silence. Sink into the profound stillness that winter offers. Here, in this sacred space, between years, between breaths, between thoughts, the deepest magic happens. Remember, this isn't about forcing stillness. It's about allowing it. Like the surface of a lake naturally becoming still when the wind ceases, our being naturally finds stillness when we stop creating ripples of constant doing. This pause carries a promise. Everything that needs to be born through you will come in its perfect time. Just as spring follows winter without fail, your next phase of growth will emerge from this stillness. But first, accept the invitation of the cold moon. Enter the profound pause. Let yourself be held in the sacred void where all transformation begins. The cold moon is nature's reminder that pause is not just an absence of action, it's a presence of potential. In this frozen moment of celestial stillness, you touch the infinite. You remember that you too are allowed to pause, to rest, to be still, to gather strength in silence before your next becoming. In Taoist tradition, they speak of Wu Wei, the art of non-doing. This isn't passive inaction, but rather a state of perfect responsiveness born from stillness. The ancient Taoists observed how nature moves in cycles of action and rest, teaching that power comes not from constant motion, but from knowing when to be still. The Buddhist concept of shunyata, emptiness, points to this same profound truth. In the spaces between thoughts, between breaths, between moments, they found the very essence of reality. The pause wasn't seen as empty. It was recognized as pregnant with infinite potential. Indigenous cultures worldwide honored this time of year as the Great Pause. When the sun seemed to stand still at solstice, they didn't fill this time with activity. Instead, they entered into deep listening, knowing that the darkest time held seeds of the brightest future. In ancient Egypt, they spoke of the space between spaces, Duat, the mysterious realm where transformation happens. This wasn't seen as a place of death, but rather a sacred void where rebirth becomes possible. Like the pause between exhale and inhale, it was considered essential for renewal. Modern neuroscience has discovered fascinating parallels to these ancient teachings. Research shows that the brain requires moments of pause to consolidate learning and form new neural patterns. During periods of apparent rest, the default mode network becomes active. This is when the brain processes experiences, makes new connections, and integrates insights. Quantum physics speaks of the zero-point field, a state of perfect stillness where all possibilities exist as quantum superpositions. This mirrors the spiritual teaching about the fertile void, suggesting that pause isn't empty, but rather full of potential energy. Studies in chronobiology reveal how natural cycles of rest and activity are essential for optimal functioning. Just as the cold moon marks nature's profound pause, our bodies and minds require these periods of deep stillness for regeneration and renewal. Research in contemplative neuroscience shows that regular periods of stillness can enhance neuroplasticity, improve cognitive integration, boost creative problem-solving, strengthen intuitive capabilities, deepen emotional regulation, activate natural healing responses. Questions for deep reflection during the profound pause. As you enter this sacred time of stillness, consider what whispers in your heart when all the noise falls away. Beneath the doing, achieving, and becoming, who are you in perfect stillness? What patterns in your life are ready to settle into rest? What wisdom emerges when you stop seeking it? How does your body feel when you fully allow yourself to pause? What gifts might be waiting in the spaces between your certainties? What would open up if you fully trusted the pause? How might your life change if you honored stillness as much as action? The twilight practice. In the deepening darkness of winter evenings, sit in the transition between day and night. Let your awareness rest in this in-between time. Notice how nature herself shows us how to pause gracefully. The midnight vigil. Once during this cold moon phase, stay awake during the midnight hours. Experience the profound stillness of deep night. Let the dark silence speak to your soul. This is when the pause is most powerful. The snow watch. If snow falls during this time, watch it in complete silence. Notice how each flake requires perfect stillness to form its pattern. Let this natural meditation teach you about the power of pause. The sacred stop. 3 times each day, stop completely, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. Let everything settle, like snow falling silently on already frozen ground. Stay in this stillness for at least 3 minutes. In the depths of the cold moon's profound pause lies a promise. Everything that needs to be born through you will come in its perfect time. Just as spring follows winter without fail, your next phase of growth will emerge from the stillness. Remember, the pause isn't passive. It's a dynamic stillness, a pregnant emptiness, a powerful void where all possibilities dance. When you honor the pause, you align with the deepest rhythms of existence. A blessing for the pause. May you find peace in the sacred void, where doing dissolves into being, where striving melts into allowing, where knowing opens into mystery. May the cold moon guide you into perfect stillness, where all transformation begins. As you move through your days under this cold moon, ask yourself, am I allowing enough space between experiences to fully integrate them? Where might I be rushing past important moments of pause? How can I create more conscious stillness in my daily rhythm? What wisdom is waiting for me in the spaces between my thoughts? Remember, the profound pause of the cold moon isn't just a teaching, it's an invitation to discover who you are beyond doing, achieving, and becoming. An invitation to touch the infinite that lives in perfect stillness. An invitation to trust that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Let the cold moon be your guide into this sacred space of pause. Trust that in this cosmic stillness, everything is aligning for your highest good. The pause isn't the absence of progress. It's the presence of possibility on your path to a better life.